Welcome to the Fort Wayne Civic Theatre Backstage tour of the Arts United Center. In this episode, we will visit the costume shop and hear from costume designer Angela Sahli.
In a standard professional costume shop, there are many different spaces defined for different uses. You typically have cutting tables, sewing tables that will have sergers, regular sewing machines, and a hand sewing station. There will be an ironing station, also a space to use a steamer. We have a dressing room and an area, desk area, that is used for research, to check emails, schedule meetings, take phone calls for rental appointments, and things like that. We have a good collection of dress forms in our shop that are used for draping, for visualization, and for finishing work. So draping on a dress form helps you create a pattern from scratch, as opposed to using what would be called a commercial pattern, which would be something you could buy at Joann's Fabrics, for instance. So with draping, you would take the designer's sketch and take fabric and a form that would be relative to the size of the garment you're hoping to make, and you'll actually manipulate the fabric to create the design. After you've done that, you take those fabric pieces and mark them in a specific way so that they can be taken off the form, placed on top of pattern paper, which could be even just plain brown paper sacks. And then you create your pattern pieces off of that. The next step would typically be, after you've created your pattern from draping, is to make what's called a mock-up, which is a practice garment. And you'd make the mock-up out of material that's going to have a similar weight to the finished garment, ideally, because you want to see the way that it hangs. So if I was going to make a mock-up for a man's suit, I wouldn't want something that's really lightweight or silky or made out of a stretched fabric. I'd want something that's going to be a similar weight to the finished garment. So you make the mock-up, and then you would have your actor come in for a costume fitting, and you'd make adjustments to that mock-up before you actually cut the real fabric. And that's in the ideal setting. There are some instances where maybe you don't have enough time or enough manpower to do all of those steps. So occasionally, instead of doing the mock-up aspect, you'll go right into the finished fabric to make your garment. And just know that maybe you have to leave a little extra seam allowance and things like that to allow for greater adjustments. Other things that we have in the costume shop are a variety of supplies, and that would include various types of thread, zippers, closures, rulers, tape measures, scissors, hand needles, a variety of adhesives, different supplies like that. We also have a great deal of fabric in the costume shop, and we store that in a variety of different ways. Fabric can be put onto large rolls, folded and stored on shelves, and smaller pieces are often tied up and put in plastic totes. And then those fabric totes are then sorted by type of fabric or color or print or all of those topics. And then we even have some totes of show-specific fabrics. So for instance, a show like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which we have produced multiple times and reused those costumes, we have one or two totes of fabric scraps from that show so that we can make repairs and alterations and adjustments. When you have a large costume stock collection, it can be difficult to navigate what you have. So it's important to organize them in a way that it's easily to find pieces, to restock pieces, and we do a lot of costume rentals. So our stock also needs to be usable for other designers who come in to pull costumes to rent from us. So some of the ways that we break down our costume stock is to separate male costumes, female costumes, and children's. The costume shop has 2 full-time staff, and they work year round on rentals and creating the designs at our 6 productions. They work to train interns and wardrobe crew for shows. And then a lot of our work is accomplished through volunteers from the Fort Wayne community and surrounding areas.